this one is a story of 4 takeoffs and 4 landings. So you see, it's a positive story already because the number of landings equals the number of takeoffs. But also, they came in pairs in rapid succession, which makes it an almost direct Toronto to Malaga connection. In a few ways, superior to the alternatives. So let me elaborate. Alright, so here we are on our way to Toronto to catch our by now customary British Airways service from Toronto Pearson to London Heathrow, but this time it will be swiftly followed by another British Airways service to Malaga, with a scheduled travel time of about 14.5 hours each way. So, as we make our way through the 3 airports involved in this trip, let's have a look at the other options. There is only one direct scheduled flight from Canada to Malaga, Air Transat from Montreal. So, if Montreal is convenient, good for you! It is definitely the fastest connection, under 8 hours gate to gate either way. But it's almost the same price as the BA and you do not get quite so much for your money. I'll circle back to this. Also, it is only the fastest if you're actually going from Montreal. Were you to take Air Transat from Toronto, my oh my, it takes them almost an entire day to make the connection. And yes, it's only 12 hours more than BA's 15, but still, 20 hours to take you from Toronto to Montreal? You'll walk faster.
How do I know that song?
Everybody knows this song. So, if Montreal doesn't work for you, it could have actually worked for us in theory, but not on this specific trip. You have to accept a stop. With this, there are quite a few options, which, of course, change all the time. But here's what I got, looking in mid-July 2025, trying to book for the back end of September. Your best price is Icelandair, no surprise there, but like Air Transat, there are a few things you should consider there before you book. Again, we'll get to those. I would definitely consider TAP because they're one of my favorite airlines ever, and also this is the second quickest connection, but you're looking to pay a bit more here, and otherwise it's either more stops, more time, or more money. So let's focus on the BA versus Air Transat versus Icelandair comparison, with a few throwaway comments about the others from time to time, as the case may be. And that's coming right up after I'm done indulging in the rest of our first takeoff. See, it is behind the men's toilet, I remember that. So, this is the skillfully hidden lounge where BA has its own little special corner and another even more special corner for first class tickets and gold card holders. Can't go there today. We've been here before and it hasn't changed, but I did have time this time to take a few more pictures. And this, in its general area, is also precisely the lounge that you do not get with Air Transat. Not here and not in Montreal. They say they will give you a discounted entry, but they don't like to say how much. The regular ticket is $50 per hour per person. That will be plus tax, so more like 56. And frankly, I wouldn't pay that much. I mean, the food is nice, there is drink to be had, and there is a shower. But it's a business, so they want it to be crowded, as it often is. And if you're paying $50 an hour, you might as well go and sit in any of the very many restaurants on the terminal. Then again, $50 being about 3 sandwiches and 3 coffees at Pearson. If you're here full 3 hours in advance and hungry, you probably very well can drink and eat your money's worth here. This is also the lounge that you would get with Icelandair, but only if you buy their most expensive ticket. Their less expensive business only gets you in Reykjavik, which is worth a lot. The same 3 sandwiches and 3 coffees being $120 there, but with a connection time of only 1 hour 20, and the Reykjavik immigration experience that I will talk about a little later, your chances of making it are pretty slim. On the return leg with BA TAP, Lufthansa and United, you'll get this lounge in Malaga, which has already featured at least twice, so I shan't dwell upon it. Links to those videos in the description. It's spacious and clean and has a view, but not much to write home about in terms of showers or food or drink. What we were looking forward to with our scheduled stop in London for almost 3 hours was our favorite BA lounge at Terminal 5B gates. As you'll see, they didn't give us a chance to get there. Link to my earlier review in the description too. So all we got was a quick coffee on the way out. In Toronto, TAP and Lufthansa will give you access to the Maple Leaf Air Canada lounge at Terminal 1, where food is good, wine not so much, bathrooms so-so, and it's always chock-a-block. So much so you may have to queue. I wouldn't. Except you may not have anywhere else to go anyway. Seats, even restaurant seats, being a scarce commodity at Terminal 1. Anyway, this one's also featured before, will appear again in a few weeks, and so let's move on to the main chorus, the seat, right after our first landing.
Terminal 5, the home of British Airways. The local time here is 6:10 in the morning. Please remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened until the fasten seatbelt signs have been switched off. When it's safe to do so, please take care when opening overhead lockers as items may have moved.
So, here is the infamous British Airways pod, which has recently established we like marginally less than the United seat, but still more than the open plan concept in Lufthansa a lot. And, well, big it is not. If the boarding rush forces you into it with your carry-on, it may not be easy to get out. It has next to no in-seat storage, so if you're an old weirdo like me who brings books and notebooks and stuff, there is nowhere really to put it. And it's about to get even more limited because they'll be closing off these little pockets, which were fairly useless, because apparently there is a conflict with the doors to this little useless cubbyhole. And speaking of doors, the famous closing doors that are the pod's identity and main advertising feature are not aging terribly well. They either don't close or don't open. Imagine this in an emergency. It is nice when it works though. For a comparison, videos with the other seats mentioned are linked in the description. And back to the pod, perfect it is not. What is in this life? But the wonderful thing it does is go flat, which is crucial if, like me, despite being a crypto cat, you just can't sleep while seated. In that case, you probably won't sleep on Air Transat and you won't sleep on Icelandair. Their seats recline but do not go flat. So, picture bigger, wider versions of the British Airways Euroflyer seats between London and Malaga. They would be real 2x2s and reclining to some 40 degrees. If that doesn't help you sleep, then psychologically on the Air Transat, even though it's an overnight, it might be less of an issue. It's a direct flight from Montreal, so you're in, out and done. Pick yourself up on the beach. Icelandair, however, gives you a tough combination. 2 5-hour flights, one of them overnight. Too short for it to be short, but too long to be painless. As we found out 2 summers ago, although that wasn't the cheap seats in the back. So, when you get to Malaga, you might be very tired, but you would have also saved a lot of money, so fair swap, I'd say. And on this note, our second takeoff will be followed by the transfer experience. And no, I do not get it, how can you not be interested in watching takeoffs and landings? So, the transfer. On Air Transat, you will have none. So that's unbeatable. Unless, of course, you have to connect in Montreal, of which I have no experience. Otherwise, you'll always have to connect somewhere. And on this trip, our London transfers were all too quick. As you're not entering the UK on your way to Spain, you only have to clear security, there is no immigration, and you do get fast-tracked through that. Disembarking at the bus gate, counterintuitive as it may seem, actually made it quicker because you do get dropped off straight at the transfer desk. Otherwise, from B or C gates you'll have to take a shuttle, but even that is usually only 10 more minutes, if that. So, on the way out, barely had time for a coffee and a spot of plane spotting before we had to rush for boarding. On the way back, we didn't even have time for that, which wasn't as scheduled and we were not happy. We were really looking forward to some time in that lounge at B gates. But alas, leg 3, Malaga to Heathrow was late, and as we landed, somebody had a bird strike on takeoff, so they closed one runway.
The local time here is 33 minutes past 3.
And everything backed up and we had no gate to go to.
We're on it, but they are all buttoned up, so hopefully they're going to get pushed back fairly soon and we can go park on their stand. At the moment there's aircraft blocking our taxiways to get to ours. It'll take quite a while, I think, so please bear with us.
So, 45 minutes later, we finally disembarked at B gate.
At all, so we're very lucky to have got here, so apologies if we are running a bit behind schedule. We're quite lucky to not be running a lot more behind schedule, so thank you very much for bearing with us for that. We've just got to wait for our ground team, who are obviously scrambling to get to us. We've obviously moved terminals now, so we have been able to park. We're just going to wait for the jetty to attach itself to the forward left-hand exit, so I don't anticipate us rushing off anytime soon.
With our Toronto flight also leaving from B gate, where, however, there is no longer a security. So you have to get on that shuttle, get to A gate, go through transfer, go through security, get back on the shuttle, get back to B gate, and even though that was all only about 25 minutes total time, with the delayed arrival, by the time we've done all that, Toronto was boarding. No lounge for us, not this time, which was rather annoying, because the traffic was still backed up and we were not going anywhere for another hour, which they knew, but they boarded us anyway, because that way there's no delay on the record. Door closed on time. On some 250 hostages trapped inside. Gotta love them.
Very shortly ready to go, we were, nicely on time. However, there's been a slight incident today at Heathrow, which has caused them to close one of the runways temporarily. So we are expecting another hour on the ground, unfortunately. There's a huge queue of aircraft trying to depart. I'm happy to say the runway is open again.
Anyway, the transfers were quick and we never stopped moving.
So the cabin crew going to start preparing the aircraft for our departure. So cabin crew doors to automatic and cross-check, please.
Which was not our experience the one time we did this with Icelandair. Even though you're only transferring in Iceland, you will have to go through passport control. And if our one experience is anything to go by, you'll arrive in Reykjavik very early in the morning, just as they change shifts. And as all long-haul Iceland Airs come in, so there'll be hundreds of people, only 2 countries open, E-gates might be closed, so even if you do hold an EU passport, it may not help you, and neither will your business ticket. Allow at least 1 hour in the queue, and your stopover is only an hour and a half. That, to me, is the largest drawback of the Icelandair connection. They're wonderful in the air. On the ground, Keflavik is a horrible airport. But again, you'll be saving. Alright, what else? Not much. And whatever there is, coming right up after our second landing.
The captain has now switched on the fasten seatbelt signs and will ensure that you land in Malaga. Please now return to your seat and make sure that all your personal belongings are safely put away in the overhead lockers or under the seat in front of you.
That makes it a bit 5 minutes to midday here. That's 11:55 in the morning. For the time being, please do remain seated with seatbelts secured fastened until, of course, the seatbelt signs get switched on again when it's safe to do so. If you're opening up.
So, what else is there? You'll end up in the same immigration hall in Malaga no matter where you fly in from, and we've never waited more than 15 minutes. Every airline will give you some sort of a goodie bag. BAs we find notoriously difficult to open. Couldn't open it last time. Please, that's not just me.
Moisturizer, lip balm, extra points, and this thing that you put on your pillow.
Pulse thing.
Yeah, there you go. And then a cute little baby.
Pulse thing, my particular favorite pulse point. Everyone will have their own in-flight entertainment, and whether you like it or not is a matter of personal preference, so I can't comment. BA's headphones are rather good, I have to say. And, you know, you can always do the sensible thing and read. No matter which option you pick, you will be fed and watch it. And on this score, you quite likely can do better than BA. The Gremlin Lure reviews will not be too exciting. All I can say is if you're spending millions retrofitting those 777s with new seats, why wouldn't you consider touching up the bathrooms? It's clean. You can see it's done a few miles. But the one thing you will not get anywhere else is the BA safety video.
Confess a sentiment of the most tender nature. Welcome everyone. We will now demonstrate the safety features of this aircraft.
Like detective stories. Nobody does these quite like the Brits.
Tight up! Your life jacket is underneath or beside your seat.
The brace position! And this is the brace position!
Alright, so is there a final twist or a final point to this story? Of course there is! Coming right up after our third takeoff, this being towards the southeast in Malaga, one of my favorite departure routes ever. So the final twist is, of course, how much? We've seen Air Transat and we've seen Icelandair and a few other options. When I tried to pretend book this trip on BA Now, it kept coming up with things outrageous. We paid about a quarter of this. So what can you do? Well, you can check if anybody else is being more sensible about it, and hey presto, they are! You can buy the same trip on BA Metal from Iberia for this much. Still $1,000 more than Icelandair, but same as Air Transat. Is the safety video worth $1,000? Probably not, even though it is a corker. But the flatbed, the Avios points that you can use in North America, well, I don't know, your decision. But as said at the start, it is one option. And why would you want to go to Malaga? Well, that's the bonus track and the videos in the end card. And this was our last takeoff from London and our last landing in Toronto. And hey, maybe you even forgot to skip it. Gremlin on the road.
Halfway to Spain, slightly over. We're finally in the UK. At least it's not freezing. I'm not slipping on ice and it's not snowing. It's better.